Imagine giving your all to your family, only to find out your wife betrayed you and your daughter, not even yours. Just when life couldn't get any worse, you're hit with a deadly illness. But instead of dying, you're reborn, and this time you're done playing nice. This is the story of a man who lost everything and came back to conquer the stars as the fearsome evil lord Liam. At the beginning of the story, we witness a massive fleet of spaceships and towering mecha robots floating in the vastness of outer space. The tension in the air rises when a girl urgently announces the arrival of enemies through a warp gate. The captain, caught off guard, reacts with visible shock. Moments later, a warp gate materializes in space, but instead of a massive army, only a single, ominous mecha knight emerges. The captain, puzzled, questions the enemy's strategy, wondering why only one warrior was sent to attack them. Despite the confusion, the fleet opens fire on the lone figure. However, the mecha knight skillfully evades every attack and swiftly breaches the command chamber. In a matter of seconds, he annihilates the captain and his team. Alarmed, the remaining forces dispatch their own mecha units to stop the Black Knight. But with terrifying precision, the knight draws his sword and effortlessly dismantles them one by one. Facing an entire army, he finally unleashes his ultimate slash, a devastating attack that slices the main spaceship clean in half. The resulting explosion destroys every enemy mecha in the vicinity. Inside that fearsome black machine sits our main character. With a chilling calmness, he mutters that his enemies are pathetically weak. He praises his maid AI Amagi for her flawless strategy. She accepts the compliment respectfully, calling him master. The protagonist Liam then orders Amagi to launch a full-scale assault. She immediately relays his command to all allied ships, instructing them to prepare for an attack. Suddenly, a new mecha unit arrives through a warp gate, piloted by a girl who wastes no time destroying an enemy robot. Liam notes her late arrival while she apologizes and begins eliminating more enemies with deadly precision. Amagi, maintaining her efficiency, commands all allied forces to engage the enemy fleet. Overwhelmed, the enemy begins to collapse under the coordinated assault. As chaos erupts, Liam lets out a maniacal laugher. Amidst the destruction, a woman appears and tries to pitch the 7th Weapon Company's battleships to Liam. Uninterested, Liam coldly instructs Amagi to take her order and remove her from his sight. With the enemy forces nearly wiped out, Liam mocks their weakness and revels in the destruction. He commands them to kneel before him and beg the evil Lord Liam for mercy. Then, summoning a massive bazooka, he fires directly into another enemy ship, causing a spectacular explosion. As he finishes off the last of the enemy mechas, he dares any survivors to fight back, saying that each battle makes his revenge for his past life all the more satisfying. At this point, the story flashes back to Liam's previous life. He's just an ordinary man, exhausted from a long day, commuting home on a crowded train. When he arrives, his wife Mika greets him at the door. He asks about their daughter, Kanami, and Mika replies that she's already asleep. She then mentions wanting to adopt a dog after seeing one at a friend's house. Liam reminds her that they can't afford a pet right now. The next day, the couple visits a pet shop to look at dogs. Liam reminisces about a beloved dog he once had. Despite his struggles, Liam cherishes the small, happy life he shares with Mika and Kanami. His job is difficult. His boss frequently berates him, and his co-workers often take credit for his hard work while pinning their mistakes on him. But he never complains. His family is his source of strength. One day, a friend invites Liam to watch a movie. On his way there, he happens to pass by a cafe and sees Mika sitting with another man. Shocked and confused, he returns home later and casually asks her how her day was. She lies, saying she went to Kanami's school. Liam doesn't press her further. Trying to reassure himself, Liam convinces himself that Mika would never betray him. But trouble starts at work. His computer stops shutting down properly. A few days later, he visits the same cafe and breathes a sigh of relief not seeing Mika inside. But just as he's leaving, he spots Mika walking nearby with Kanami, and the same man from before. To his horror, Kanami refers to the man as Papa. This moment shatters his world. Liam begins questioning everything. Lost in thought at work, he struggles to stay focused. Then, his boss scolds him again. Liam tries to explain that his PC is malfunctioning, But suddenly he receives a call. Konami has had an accident. At the hospital, doctors ask for blood from both parents. Mika's blood matches, Liam's does not. The truth hits him like a sledgehammer. At home, he confronts Mika, demanding to know if Konami is really his daughter. Through tears, he begs for an explanation, heartbroken that everything he worked for was a lie. But Mika responds coldly. She blames him for never being home, for working long hours yet earning so little. She says he failed to make her happy in their 10 years of marriage. She claims she raised Konami alone, and now she's leaving. She takes Konami's hand and tells her it's time to go to her real father. Liam pleads with his daughter, asking her to stay, but Konami quietly says she prefers her other papa more. Broken and betrayed, Liam spirals further when his boss accuses him of embezzling 5 rupees crore using the office computer, evidence that points to his workstation, which had remained active due to the technical issue. He's fired on the spot. Now divorced, homeless, and disgraced, Liam lives in a tiny rental room. Mika takes full custody of Konami and still demands child support. On top of that, Liam must repay the missing company funds or face prison. From a devoted husband and loving father, Liam is reduced to nothing. But in the shadows of his suffering, a fire begins to burn. Just then, his friend messaged him with excitement, sharing that he had just bought a brand new game, the same one the main character had always wanted to play. He considered replying and asking if they could play it together, but ultimately, he decided to remain silent. Each day, he worked tirelessly, hoping that his hard work would eventually be rewarded by fate or divine grace. Though he wasn't a man of fame and had no children, his heart was full of love and kindness. But life had other plans. Instead of a reward, he received a cruel diagnosis, an illness so serious that treatment was beyond his financial reach. With no hope left, he lay in his room, quietly waiting for death. As he stared into the void, he recalled an old saying about beloved pets returning at the end of one's life to guide their soul. Just then, something strange occurred. A mysterious light appeared before him. Within that light, he saw something shocking. The person who had stolen millions from his computer was none other than his superior, the chief. But what hurt even more was the realization that the chief was also the biological father of the daughter he had raised as his own. Everything had been a lie. He had been betrayed by the 2 people he trusted the most. He discovered that Mika, the woman he had loved deeply, had never felt the same. She had never intended to have a child with him. The little girl, Konami, was not his daughter after all. Crushed by the truth, he could only beg the universe for it all to be a dream. But a voice coldly reminded him that it wasn't a dream. It was his reality. The voice questioned him, reminding him of how much he had given, only to receive betrayal in return. When asked what he wanted now, he declared that he wanted revenge. The figure in the light was amused by this raw anger. It explained that it had come to reward him for his good deeds. But the man's bitterness seemed stronger than any sense of goodness left. The figure asked what he would do if given a second chance at life. The man replied that he would live for himself, doing whatever he pleased, without caring about others' expectations. The figure accepted his answer and presented him with photos of different worlds. Each world was unique, some full of monsters, others with dinosaurs, and many more. The man chose a world that showed advanced robots and flying battleships. The figure described it as a sci-fi fantasy world where magic and machines coexisted and royalty ruled supreme. He promised to place the man in a noble family and handed him a contract written in blood. The man signed it without hesitation. His soul was then transported to a new world where he would be given a second chance. This time, he would live only for himself. He was reborn as Liam Sarah Wainfield, the only son of a ruling noble family on the planet Astalar, located in the Elven system, a lush, jungle-covered world. Fast forward to his 5th birthday, where his mother excitedly brought him into a grand room to present his birthday gift. When Liam opened the box, he found nothing inside. His mother then explained that he would be receiving an AI-made robot instead. Suddenly, countless visual options appeared before him. She told him he could design every single part of the robot himself. If he skipped a part, the robot simply wouldn't have it. While scrolling, Liam came across some inappropriate design options. Despite being mentally 36 years old, his body was still only 5. He was stunned that such features were even available. Just then, his father entered the room with a proud grin. He had a gift of his own. He officially announced that everything he owned now belonged to Liam, and that Liam would be the next head of the family. The parents would move to the Imperial home planet, and Liam would stay behind and send them money each month. After Liam signed the documents, he became the new head of the household, a count with noble status. Looking around at his new life, Liam made a vow. In his past life, he had suffered in silence, but now, with wealth, power, and freedom at his fingertips, he promised himself that he would live without regret. He would live as an evil lord, indulging in chaos and doing as he pleased. He silently thanked the mysterious figure who had given him this second chance. Back on Earth, the figure stood beside Liam's lifeless body and laughed mockingly. He found the man's former life pitiful. Now it was time for others to entertain him. Meanwhile, Mika and the chief were planning their marriage. Neither of them felt guilt for what they had done. But just as their future seemed secure, the figure snapped his fingers. Police stormed in and arrested the chief for embezzlement and workplace harassment. The evidence against him was undeniable. Mika panicked and asked what would happen to her and her daughter now that the chief was gone, but her cries were ignored. The figure chuckled, reminding her that the one man who had truly loved her was now dead. From now on, she would never experience happiness again. He walked into a portal, whispering that it was time to guide Liam down a path of pain and suffering in his new world. He couldn't wait to feast on the bitterness that would come once Liam realized the truth. However, just before the portal closed, Liam's dog appeared in spirit form and followed the figure. Determined to protect his master, the dog entered the new world alongside him. Elsewhere in the galaxy, a fierce space battle unfolded. Princess Christiana Lata, Rosebred of the Holy Kingdom of Lirve, appeared on the battlefield, effortlessly taking down enemy ships. Her kingdom's fleet followed up with devastating strikes, wiping out what remained of the enemy. Her elite knights charged forward, defeating every last soldier. Victory belonged to Christiana. Meanwhile, in Liam's mansion, he received his custom-made AI maid robot. These robots, called dolls, came in elegant packages. As Liam touched the packaging, the AI activated. A graceful, fairy-like figure emerged and introduced herself as Amagi. The family's butler, Bian, explained that Amagi would stay by Liam's side forever and only needed 2 hours of maintenance per week. Aside from that, she would belong solely to him. Liam carefully examined every detail of her design to make sure it was exactly as he had ordered. Satisfied, he took Amagi into another room. When Bian tried to follow, the door closed behind them. Inside, Liam enjoyed a massage from Amagi. He even joked about taking a bath together, to which Amagi agreed without hesitation. Moments later, Bian knocked on the door and asked if anything inappropriate had happened. Liam casually responded that while his body might be 5 years old, his mind was 36. Bian reminded him that even 36 was still considered young. In this world, adulthood began at age 50, and a person was only considered fully grown at 100. People here lived up to 500 or 600 years. Amagi added that such long lives gave people a chance to experience far more. Liam found that interesting. A long lifespan meant endless opportunities for enjoyment. However, Bian warned Liam to be cautious. AI robots weren't popular anymore. In the past, they had nearly caused humanity's extinction. Only a few brave individuals had stepped forward to save the world back then. The empire had been built by the very people now rejecting it. Because of this, the imperial nobility held a deep resentment toward AI robots. Despite their importance and potential, they were seen as threats rather than allies. Sulia, puzzled by the contradiction, wonders why his own mother had gifted him an AI robot, but the answer is withheld from him. Eventually, the truth comes to light. Liam's parents had abandoned him. The reason was the crushing debt that burdened the Winfield family. Once a great and wise lineage founded by Alistair, Liam's great-grandfather, the family had since fallen due to the incompetence of his grandfather and father. They lacked the ability to govern, and the family's domain crumbled under their leadership. This truth hits Liam hard. He realizes he can no longer pursue his old dreams of dominance and power over others. Worse, they have no means left to repay the family's overwhelming debt. The situation is only going to deteriorate from here. Meanwhile, at a local bar, commoners discuss their grim reality. A 5-year-old boy has become their new king, and experience tells them taxes will rise as every new monarch starts with heavy taxation. Life has worn them down, and now, all they can do is hope that the new ruler has a kind heart. At the mansion, Liam reflects on his circumstances. It becomes clear that his existence may have only served the purpose of inheriting his parents' debt. In his previous life, betrayal was all he knew. People had only used him for their own benefit. Now, he fears history may repeat itself. Recognizing a shared sense of isolation and rejection, Liam finds common ground with Amagi, the AI robot. They are both outcasts in society. He decides they should team up and pull themselves out of the situation together. Amagi accepts this new bond with complete devotion, declaring her sole purpose is to serve him. As long as she is by his side, she believes she can never be cast out again. She pledges her loyalty through every hardship. Liam, thinking about humanity, begins to introduce her to the traditional 3 laws of robotics, but he stops himself, realizing he's once again prioritizing others over his own needs. For once, he wants to live for himself. Instead of the old rules, he creates new ones tailored to his own vision. A maid robot must never harm her master, must follow all his commands, and must protect herself as long as it doesn't violate the first 2 rules. These new principles are immediately embedded into Amagi's system. Determined to restore his family's lost honor, Liam declares that humanity no longer matters to him. He wants results. Amagi warns him that her ideals may not align with government standards, but since Liam knows little about the world, she recommends an education capsule. It will transfer all essential knowledge into his brain over a 6-month period while she manages his domain in his absence. Liam hesitates. Entering a robotic capsule feels like a betrayal of his human identity, but he reassures her that, as her master, he won't let humanity perish. Beyond, however, believes the Empire will never accept AI as full administrators. Amagi counters this, pointing out that no law forbids AI robots from managing domains. Liam insists on going through with it and asks Beyond to bring the capsule. Despite Beyond's continued protests, Liam ignores him and walks away with Amagi. As Liam prepares to enter the capsule, he questions whether AI can truly experience emotions. Amagi admits she doesn't know, but something inside her changed when he offered to form a team. Liam accepts this as a sign that he did indeed receive the best AI robot available. The capsule closes, and for the next 6 months, Liam will remain in suspended learning while Amagi oversees everything in his absence. After a long time, the pod finally unlocks, and Amagi is there to greet Liam as he steps out. Once he's dressed, he checks how long he's been inside, and Amagi casually tells him it's been 2 years. She then fills him in on how things are going in the Banfield territory, and everything seems to be running smoothly. Liam appreciates all the work she's done and says he wants to go out and see things for himself. Amagi decides to take him to the spaceship docks first. It's his first time seeing his land with his own eyes, and the huge armored suits catch his attention right away. He gets curious and asks if he can try one. Amagi quickly sets it up for him and explains how the suit moves by just imagining what you want it to do. Liam hops in and tests it out. It feels natural, like he's flying through the air with ease. Feeling pumped, he says he wants to try it in a practice fight. Amagi agrees and arranges a mock battle. Soon, the head of the defense squad, Machida, shows up to spar. As soon as they start, Liam charges in and swings, and Machida pretends to be knocked out. But Liam can tell he's faking. He's not happy being babied, so he demands a proper fight. Machida, having no choice, gets serious. The next clash ends fast. Machida easily takes Liam's weapon and drops him to the ground. Liam is shocked at how badly he lost. Amagi then explains that the suit works off mental focus. And veterans like Machida have way more experience, so their control is on another level. Embarrassed but determined, Liam immediately tells his butler Brian to find him a proper trainer. Brian tries to talk him out of it, saying he doesn't really need to fight, but Liam won't back down. In his past life, he was always weak and pushed around. Now, if he's going to live as a fearsome ruler, he needs to get strong. No excuses. A bit later, Liam meets a guy named Yasushi. Liam is impressed by how cool and confident the guy looks, and right away asks him to be his teacher. Yasushi agrees, though Amagi seems unsure about him. Something feels off, but Liam ignores it. Yasushi acts like a true warrior, and that's enough for Liam. Still, Amagi asks him to check if Yasushi is the real deal. Liam agrees and asks for a demo. Yasushi takes them to a quiet spot in the woods where he set up some training dummies made of bamboo. He says he's about to show his special move, one he won't repeat. Liam listens carefully and even tells Amagi to record it for later. Yasushi gets in stance, slightly moves his sword, and in the blink of an eye, all the bamboo gets sliced in half. Liam is completely stunned. He wants to see how it was done, so he asks Amagi to replay it in slow motion. But even slowed down, the footage shows nothing, just blur. Liam is convinced that Yasushi is insanely fast, maybe even beyond what machines can capture. He's thrilled and begs to become his student. Later that night, Yasushi sneaks back to the training spot, laughing to himself. Turns out the whole thing was a trick. He had already cut the bamboo to fall apart on cue. The super move was just for show. And now, thanks to that little stunt, he's got himself a sweet deal, getting paid without doing any real work. While Liam's been off training, the princess was traveling to meet a gang of space pirates. She went there hoping to strike a deal for peace. The pirate boss Gauze was the one who suggested it in the first place, but when she shows up, he mocks her for coming alone. What he doesn't know is, she didn't come unprepared. Her backup was ready and waiting, and one signal could have wiped his ship off the map. She thought this would scare him into behaving, but it didn't. Gauze was way too calm for someone in danger. That's when things took a bad turn. News came in that her home planet had just been surrounded by enemy ships. She couldn't figure out how they got past the security until Gauze smugly told her that parts of her so-called alliance had secretly switched sides. And her crew confirmed the worst every ship she thought was on her side had aimed their weapons right at her. She was stunned. The entire alliance had flipped, and she'd walked right into a trap. With no way out, she had to sit there and listen to whatever Gauze wanted from her. Back on Liam's planet, he was training non-stop with Yasushi, but things weren't going how he hoped. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't pull off the flashy move he'd seen. Amagi, who's usually helping him with everything, didn't know much about sword techniques, so she couldn't really help either. Yasushi had been making Liam drill the same basic moves over and over for years. Liam was sick of it. Sure, his skills had gotten better, but he wasn't looking to be pretty good. He wanted something cool and powerful he could actually show off. Meanwhile, Yasushi was chilling in his room, flipping through manga like always. Even though he was a total fake, he actually did know some basics. Just enough to get by. And for 3 whole years, he'd been living the easy life, getting paid big money for doing the bare minimum. But Liam suddenly barged in, asking again to learn the special move. Yasushi panicked and quickly claimed he was quitting. He said he already showed that move once and wasn't going to do it again. Liam, feeling guilty, immediately apologized and begged him to stay. Yasushi played it cool, pretending to forgive him, but deep down he was sweating. If Liam ever found out he was a fraud, the whole gig would be over. Once Liam left, Yasushi breathed a big sigh of relief, hoping the act still held up. But just as he was relaxing, Liam popped his head back in. For a second, Yasushi froze, thinking he'd been caught. Luckily, Liam just came to say he'd be busy the next day and wouldn't show up to train. While all this was happening, the princess was now a prisoner, locked away in Gauze's quarters. She demanded to know what he planned to do with her. He calmly said she was in the perfect spot, to watch. She didn't get it at first, but then he gave the order, and every ship under his control pointed their cannons at her planet. That's when it hit her. She begged him to stop, but Gauze didn't care. With a single command, he had her world blown to dust right before her eyes. Back in Liam's territory, he was still upset about not learning the move. But life had to go on. He had responsibilities. So he asked Amagi to go over the monthly status report with him. Amagi brings Liam some charts showing how the planet's economy is doing. The debt is still huge, but factories and farming areas have been slowly improving. Liam's glad he trusted Amagi to manage everything. She's doing a solid job, but she isn't fully satisfied. She points out that even with all the resources they've thrown into public projects like helping the poor, the results just aren't measuring up. Liam asks to see the numbers behind the program, and thanks to all the time he spent studying finances in his past life, he quickly spots something fishy. He tells Amagi to call in the guy who's been running that department. The man shows up trying to play it cool, but Liam already knows he's been quietly pocketing money. Turns out, the guy switched vendors and fudged some paperwork hoping no one would notice. But Liam's not new to this game. He's read enough reports to catch weird spending patterns in seconds. What makes it worse is that the guy didn't even bother hiding it well. Liam isn't even furious about it, just kind of amused. After all, his whole plan was to live like a villain in this new world. But then Amagi drops a surprise. That noble had already been under investigation once for stealing funds and somehow got off scot-free. He claimed it was one of his workers who did it, and that guy got executed for it. Liam doesn't buy it. There was no real proof, and everything smells like a cover-up. Liam just quietly stands up and grabs his sword. The noble starts sweating, trying to explain how every other noble does the same thing, like that somehow makes it okay. Liam doesn't care. With one clean slash, he ends it. Afterward, he tells Amagi to dig into every noble on the planet and deal with anyone who's dirty. But Amagi tells him to take a breath first. Liam's still shaking. This was his first time killing someone. He can't even let go of his sword until Amagi gently helps him. She explains that if he wipes out every corrupt official right now, it'll throw the whole system into chaos. There'd be no one left to run things. So she suggests creating artificial workers, doll-like units, to handle the work instead. Liam agrees. He trusts her call. Sometime later, Liam shows up at the training area, feeling confident again. He's nailed the sword basics and is ready to move on. He walks up to suit up for a new phase of combat. But right then, Yasushi appears and warns him that relying on the usual high-tech gear will hold him back. So Liam turns to Mashida and asks if there's a tougher option. Mashida tells him there is, but it's old school, fully manual, and so hard to use that hardly anyone's managed to pilot it. Yushi heads over to an old shrine, pretending he's there to look for ancient treasures. But in reality, he's just annoyed. Liam's getting better way too fast, and the training that was supposed to be vague and confusing is somehow working for him. Yushi knows he can't keep tricking Liam forever. So, to drag things out and keep the cash flowing, he decides to come up with another pointless task. While looking around, he leans against a random wall, and surprise, a hidden switch clicks, opening up a dusty chamber with a worn-down robot knight inside. It looks ancient, but for Yushi, it's the perfect excuse to keep Liam busy and distracted. Far from there, a dark being known as the Guide continues his usual routine of feeding off people's bad vibes. He makes his way to Earth and spots a guy who completely loses it because his lunch order came with onions. The Guide enjoys the snack, but wants something deeper, something more satisfying. Back in Liam's world, Yushi tells Liam that fixing the old machine, now named Avid, is his next challenge. Liam, always eager to grow, agrees and starts prepping right away. He's outside training with his loyal butler, Brian, practicing some flashy over-the-top move that Yushi taught him just to waste time. Brian watches silently, not convinced this is helpful. He knows Avid is a family heirloom, but still thinks it's outdated junk. Liam, though, believes using such a relic will sharpen his instincts better than any modern tech. Elsewhere, Amagi, the AI maid, shows up to inspect Avid. She's not thrilled. She doubts Yushi even knows anything about sword fighting, and this training method seems more like stalling. Still, she does her job, since Liam told her to, getting to work on the broken-down knight. Later, a skilled engineer named Nias Carlin arrives with her repair team. Liam greets her warmly at the landing site. As they talk, Nias spots Amagi and raises her eyebrows. Curious why an android is standing so close to someone of noble blood, Liam assumes she's judging him, getting a little defensive about his choice to keep an AI as part of his household. But Nias actually thinks androids are cool and quickly turns into a fan, geeking out over Amagi's custom design. She gets a little too hands-on, though, and Liam has to stop her before she crosses the line. They head over to the storage unit where Avid is kept. Nias takes one look and bluntly says it's a pile of scrap. She suggests buying a newer model, but Liam is firm. He's not interested in some factory-made robot. Avid is the one he wants to use no matter what. Nias warns him it's going to be tough. The robot's parts aren't even available anymore, and its size doesn't match the modern builds. Repairs will be expensive and messy, but Liam doesn't care. He says they can just retrofit it, using pieces from the newest units to boost performance. Still, because Yushi demanded that Liam learn everything the hard way, he asks Nias to leave out all automatic features and keep everything manual. He even requests some flashy moves, like a detachable fist that launches like a missile. While all this was going on, Yushi showed up at the warehouse to check in. The moment he saw Naz, he was frozen, completely love-struck. She was everything he wanted in a woman, except she completely ignored him. He kept trying to talk, even threw in a few weird pickup attempts, but she didn't notice. She just kept talking business with Liam. Watching them talk like some rom-com couple made Yushi burn with jealousy. So, as revenge, he came up with a cruel training idea. He told Liam to balance on a log, floating in a river while blindfolded. Then, to make things worse, Yushi started shooting tennis balls at him using some crazy machine gun he built himself. Of course, he acted like it was all to help Liam grow, but in reality, he was just mad that Nas paid more attention to Liam. Liam struggled, big time. The sword he was holding had weights on it, and he could barely stay on the log. But no matter how hard it got, he kept going. He believed that if he trained hard enough, he'd get stronger, even if it meant taking a few hits along the way. Meanwhile, in another part of the galaxy, a pirate named Goez walked into his ship's prison section. He had locked up a bunch of women, and one of them was Princess Christiana. Without explaining much, he pulled her aside and said they had reached their next destination, Treasure Island. Boas stared at Christiana like she was some kind of jewel he wanted to add to his collection. He dragged her into a creepy lab full of failed experiments. Inside, there was a woman who had been turned into something monstrous through twisted experiments. Goas tossed her aside like garbage, then told Christiana she would be his new project. With all the time in the world and no one to stop him, he began planning what to do with her. His assistant casually suggested they start with something horrible, like damaging her legs. But Goaz, always one to outdo cruelty, said he had something even worse in mind. He wanted to take her eyes and attach them to her hands. Christiana was horrified. The lab was filled with jars containing broken victims, proof that unless someone saved her soon, she'd become just another failed experiment. Weeks go by. Back at the base, Nias finishes fixing up Avid, giving it a bunch of crazy upgrades just like Liam asked for. But her job isn't done yet. She takes Liam inside the cockpit to teach him how to control it. For some reason, she decides the best way to teach him involves removing half her clothes. Because why not, right? Trying not to stare, Liam follows her instructions and powers up the machine. Avid scans him and locks him in as its only pilot, so now no one else can use it. Super hyped, Liam tries to move it and falls, face first. Nias laughs a little and explains that Avid doesn't have any fancy balance or assist features. It's completely manual, no buttons to help, no shortcuts. But there's a silver lining. If Liam manages to master this old-school mech, he'll be able to control it like it's his own body. That thought alone gets him pumped up and ready to train even harder. Liam finally manages to stand up and walk steadily while controlling the mobile knight. He guides it out of the warehouse, feeling a bit more confident. Nias reminds him that staying focused and having a clear picture in his head is key to operating the mech properly. She steps in to adjust a few settings for him, but when she leans too close, something unexpected happens. And suddenly, Liam's concentration takes a weird turn. The mech responds to that shift in his thoughts by making a weird hand movement, like it was reaching for something it shouldn't. Nyasa catches on right away, realizing what was going through Liam's mind, but he insists he didn't mean to do it. Meanwhile, Yasushi starts suspecting that Liam is messing around with the mobile knight inappropriately. On the flip side, Brian is getting emotional, happy to see his master finally showing interest in something other than swords and fighting. Yasushi, now furious, believes Liam is wasting his potential and decides to push him through tougher training routines. Time passes, and no matter how hard Liam tries, he still can't pull off his master's so-called legendary move. He starts doubting if he even has the skills for it. Amagi, watching closely, begins to question if the problem is actually with Yasushi's teachings. She tells Liam that she's had her doubts about Yasushi for a while now, but Liam refuses to believe anything bad about his mentor. Instead, he thinks that maybe there's some sort of hidden magic involved in the move. Eventually, it hits him. It's not the blade doing the cutting, it's the energy he channels into it. So he stops swinging wildly and instead begins focusing all his power into each strike. He trains non-stop, month after month, and eventually, after what feels like forever, he finally pulls it off. The funny part? That technique never really existed in the first place. It was just a myth. Years later, Liam's all grown up and wants to show his progress. He stands far away from a log, swings his sword, and slices it clean through without even touching it. Yasushi is stunned. His bluff of a technique somehow turned real. He hides his shock, though, and tells Liam there's still more to learn, just to save face. A few weeks later, Liam is on board his battleship with Amagi when they get urgent news. A tiny, unguarded planet in his zone has been hit by space pirates. The soldiers stationed there are heavily outnumbered and struggling. Amagi quickly comes up with a sneaky plan to flank the enemy using the planet's gravity and terrain. Liam agrees, ordering the fleet to trap the pirates while he heads out to protect the power plants directly. Brian pleads with him not to go, but Liam isn't the kind of guy to hide behind others. He suits up and jumps into his mobile knight, blasting off toward the battle. Catching the pirates off guard, he slices through their machines one after another before they can even react. To make things flashier, he fires off a plasma beam to knock down another enemy. Then he uses his version of the flash strike, cutting through several mechs from a distance in one go. The pirates, now scared out of their minds, start retreating fast. As a final move, Liam uses Rocket Punch, a massive blow that launches a mech's arm like a missile. It works great, but Liam isn't thrilled with it. He immediately complains to S, saying he wanted a punch that throws the whole arm, not just the hand. Amagi cuts in, giving him a quick update. They've only captured a small number of enemy ships, while a third were destroyed and the rest got away. Still, Liam considers it a victory and gives Amagi credit for the solid plan. Ghost just got the news from one of his goons that Liam pulled off a huge win. He's fuming. He never thought Liam would actually be a threat, and now the tide is turned against him. But Ghost isn't the type to throw in the towel. He's dead set on making Liam crawl and beg before he's done. What really gets under his skin, though, is that the fleet that was supposed to be on his side, they bailed. They dipped from the fight after getting smacked around by Liam's forces. That betrayal, Ghost takes it personally. He tells his lackey to launch every last ship they've got to hunt down and wipe out those cowards. Doesn't matter if they were allies 5 minutes ago, Ghost wants to make sure everyone knows what happens when you run from the pirates. While he's plotting revenge, he turns his attention back to his new toy, Princess Christiana. He's already twisted her into something inhuman, like putting her eyes in her hands for starters. It's his way of having fun, showing how far he's willing to go. Back on the other side, Liam returns to his main ship, feeling pretty good. He's chatting with Amagi, proud of how smoothly the battle went. She compliments him and thanks him for protecting one of their key planets. Liam's especially thrilled because he managed to snatch a bunch of pirate ships too, since by Empire rules, they're now his. He's pumped, dreaming about cracking them open and finding chests of riches. But when he finally checks the loot, there's no shiny gold or sparkling gems inside. Instead, it's all rare metals with names that sound like spells. Stuff like Ori Calcum and other high-tier alloys. Super valuable for making weapons, but to Liam, it's kind of a letdown. He was hoping for old school treasure. Amagi and Brian try to cheer him up, explaining that these metals are way more useful than shiny rocks. And apparently in this world, diamonds are cheap since they're just carbon. Same goes for gold. It's pretty worthless here due to some science-y reason Amagi throws in. Liam, despite spending years inside a learning capsule, still doesn't seem to care. He just wants his gold fix. He even tells Brian to bring him some gold just to satisfy his old Earth cravings. Brian laughs and says they've got a bunch lying around since it's used for electronics. Liam immediately tells him to melt it down and turn it into coins. He wants his room full of them like some fairy tale king. He's in his 30s now, but he still acts like a spoiled kid. Amagi throws him a look that screams, "Seriously?" And while Liam is busy fantasizing about useless bling and commissioning swords made of those rare metals just for fun, Amagi brings him back to reality. She shows him a report through a hologram, pointing out a major issue. Out of the 10,000 battleships in their domain, less than 3,000 are even working. Only 2,000 are good to go in case of an emergency. Liam's eyes widen. They actually managed to beat the pirates with just that? Turns out, it was mostly thanks to Liam tearing through enemies in his mobile suit and the pirates being cocky and assuming Liam was just some broke nobody. Liam nods and gives Amagi credit for her tactics too. She's the brains behind the scenes after all. Liam was seriously thinking about getting rid of all the junky old ships that barely worked. Amagi agreed right away, but Brian wasn't having it. He argued hard. Throwing away thousands of ships would make them look weak in front of enemies. One word led to another, and suddenly, Amagi and Brian were going at it like cats and dogs. As usual though, Liam sided with Amagi. He decided to sell off the valuable metals he got from the pirates and use the cash to buy some decent second-hand battleships. He didn't really trust Brian's ideas anyway. The last guy who did, Liam's dad, ended up buried in debt so deep it might as well have reached the core of the planet. And guess who had to clean up that mess? Yep, Liam. Far away, on a different planet, a woman named Nias was busy showing off her new battleship at a tech expo, hoping to wow the investors. She put her whole soul into building that thing, making sure it performed like a beast, but it looked like a floating trash can. Investors didn't even blink. They moved on. Then came her competitor, Ulisha. Her battleship was sleek, classy, and had luxury rooms fit for nobles. Even though it wasn't as strong as Nias's ship, it looked good. That was enough. Investors were sold instantly. Nias was left standing there, embarrassed and angry. She couldn't believe that appearances beat performance. Again, worried her boss would chew her out, Nias came up with a plan. Trick Liam into buying her battleships. She figured he was just a rich dummy who'd fall for anything. Meanwhile, the guide, that weird emotion-sucking guy, was still wandering around looking for misery to feed on. He found a guy glued to his computer, raging at his screen while playing games all day. That gave him a little snack. But he wanted more. So he traveled back to Liam's world, sure that Liam would be drowning in stress by now. Except when he arrived, he was stunned. Liam's territory looked like a whole new world. Modern buildings, buzzing streets, solid defenses. It was nothing like the rundown dump it used to be. The guide was speechless. How did this guy, of all people, pull this off? Still, he didn't give up hope. He remembered the fake sword master he'd planted in Liam's life a while back, hoping to mess him up from the inside. Surely that fraud would have sabotaged something by now. In a local tavern, people were actually praising Liam, calling him a great leader who captured pirates and brought in resources, a real step up from his father. But not everyone was impressed. Yushushi, the so-called sword teacher, was sitting at the bar, bitter and grumbling. He was mad because Liam kept getting better at sword fighting, and no matter how hard he tried to teach him the wrong stuff, Liam still improved. The bartender couldn't understand why a teacher would be upset about a good student. But Yushushi wasn't a real teacher, just a con man pretending to be one. He knew that if Liam figured it out, he'd be toast. The guide showed up at the bar to check on things and saw Yashushi melting down in frustration. He was supposed to be Liam's downfall, but now he was the one falling apart. And Liam? That guy was off slicing through trees in his backyard like a total pro, thinking Yashushi was still better than him. Clueless. Liam talked with Amagi about how far he'd come, born into a mess of debt, stuck with useless ships and fake teachers. And yet here he was, doing just fine. He even believed the guide had helped him and was thankful. That thankfulness was like poison to the guide, who only thrived on misery. He felt sick, like he might fade away right there. He tried to survive off Yashushi's frustration, but it wasn't enough. He needed Liam to crash and burn bad, but he decided to wait. After all, the best time for disaster is when everything looks perfect, right? Later, Amagi told Liam about a new opportunity. The Imperial Army was clearing out some of their old weapons and selling them off. Since they needed more ships anyway, it was a good chance to grab some gear. There was one catch though. Liam had to take in some of the army's leftover soldiers too. That didn't sound great. But Amagi reassured him that these soldiers were trained and well educated, so Liam took the deal. The guide watched it all, hoping this would be the crack he needed. Maybe those soldiers would turn on Liam. Maybe this was finally the beginning of the end. For now, he'd wait and watch, because sometimes the fall hits hardest when you're standing at the top. Yashushi wakes up, feeling like trash, his head pounding from last night's drinking. He regrets going overboard, but there's no time to mope. Out of nowhere, Nias drops by. She's not there to check on him though. Her real goal is to figure out how to get Liam to buy her weird new weapons. Meanwhile, Yashushi, in his half-drunk state, totally misreads the situation. He thinks she's into him, because of course, his ego's bigger than his brain. Their conversation spirals into nonsense, with Nias trying to subtly ask what kind of stuff Liam likes. She's hoping to learn what kind of tricks or appearances could influence him to buy her gear, even if it's junk. But Yashushi, in true clown fashion, thinks she's trying to flirt. He starts going on and on about what kind of clothes and styles he finds attractive, thinking he's being all smooth. Nias, completely misunderstanding, assumes he's spilling Liam's preferences and takes notes like it's classified info. So she shows up to Liam's place later, dressed in a flashy outfit she thinks will totally hook him. Unfortunately for her, Liam couldn't care less. He doesn't even flinch. Compared to someone like Amagi, she doesn't stand a chance. Before she can even do her little show, Liam shuts it down and tells her to get to the point. She explains her weapons pitch, but Liam isn't interested. He just bought a bunch from the Imperial Army. She panics, trying every desperate move to get his attention, but it only annoys him more. Her outfit actually brings back bad memories. In his previous life, his wife wore the same kind of flashy stuff, not for him, but likely for the guy she was cheating with. The look on Liam's face turns cold. Nias thinks she's impressing him, but really, he's trying not to lose his temper. Still, he recognizes how persistent she is. Since she's not backing down, and her whole appearance is getting on his nerves, he figures the fastest way to get rid of her is to just buy a few weapons. He checks with Amagi if they have the money, and luckily they do. So he tells her to wrap it up. Nias gets so excited she stumbles out of the castle, calling up her co-worker to brag about how Liam couldn't resist her charm. She paints a whole story about how he was mesmerized by her. Brian overhears this and gets pissed. He can't believe Liam would be so weak over someone's looks. Yashushi also hears the gossip and loses it too. He's mad that his own personal tastes ended up being used on someone else, especially Liam. And while they're all losing their minds over this, Liam's just relaxing, head resting on Amage's lap, enjoying the calm and completely unaware of the chaos going on behind the scenes. After a while, Nias finally delivers all 300 battleships to Liam. She didn't exactly give him much choice, kind of pushed him into buying them from her. Around the same time, the ships Liam got from the Empire also arrive. One of the engineers from the Imperial side shows up using some fancy teleport tech and brings a receipt for Liam to sign. She keeps throwing the word quantum in every sentence like it's some magic spell or something. Liam, being his usual annoying self, decides to play around and puts his thumb somewhere completely inappropriate, calling it his quantum thumbprint. Real mature. Meanwhile, back at Liam's house, Yasushi is just sulking. He's still bitter about how Nias ditched him and chose Liam instead. He keeps replaying everything in his head, especially all the times she gave up her best work for Liam. It stings. He imagines the worst, thinking Liam must have done something shady to win her over. His jealousy turns into rage. But here's the creepy part. That floating guide thing? Yeah, it's been watching the whole meltdown, feeding off every bit of Yasuishi's anger like it's a snack. It's loving the drama and hoping this rage will someday bring Liam down for good. After that, Nias takes Liam on a tour of one of the ships she made. Liam isn't expecting anything fancy. Not like he has high hopes for her anyway. But even then, he's disappointed. The inside is plain, boring, and just feels cheap. Nias defends her design, saying ships are for war, not fashion shows. Liam couldn't care less about that. He wants cool interiors, even if they're useless in battle. Nias refuses to budge, so they both just move on, clearly not seeing eye to eye. She then starts explaining how to use the ship, things like startup energy, fuel swapping, and all that boring stuff. Oh, and she tries to sell him some membership thing that gives discounts on repairs. Liam doesn't even blink, not interested. Next, she shows him the captain's seat, which still has that peel-off film on it. She's super excited to remove it and keeps acting like she's selling him a car. She even starts flirting a bit, trying to get him to sign the receipt already, even offering him a chance to leave his thumbprint in a pretty questionable spot. Liam? Totally unimpressed. Doesn't even react. Nias is left confused, thinking, what is this guy's deal? In the end, Liam just signs the receipt to get it over with. But Nias isn't done. She asks him for a little favor. She wants those pirate ships he captured earlier. Liam quickly shuts that down. He's planning to use those for himself. Nias keeps bugging Liam like a clingy salesperson who just won't take a hint. She really wants some of the broken pirate ships. That's when Amagi steps in with a clever idea. Why not just hand over a few junk ships to Nias and have her repair and upgrade the rest in return? Liam thinks it's perfect, since those ships are practically scrap metal anyway. Nias is cool with it too. Turns out, she's more curious than greedy. What she really wants is to study the tech inside the pirate ships. Apparently, this tech doesn't come from anywhere inside the Empire. It's weird, unfamiliar, and she's dying to figure out how it works. If she can crack the code, she might be able to use it in her own designs. Before finalizing anything, Liam decides to check out one of the pirate ships himself. He brings Nias and Amagi along and enters one that isn't totally wrecked. The moment he steps in, he sees how different it is. The whole vibe is strange. There's even a classic wooden-looking steering wheel like it belongs on some old sea ship. Liam thinks it's super cool and instantly wants one just like it for his own battleship. Nias, being her usual by-the-book self, tries to explain why that idea is dumb and pointless. But Liam's already made up his mind. He's not interested in logic. He wants what he wants, even if it's just for style. While he's admiring the design, Nia starts poking around, geeking out over every little part she sees. Meanwhile, Liam spots a small, glowing, dog-like thing slipping into another room. Curious, he follows it, and Amagi tags along. It leads them to what looks like the navigation room. As Liam steps in, something clicks under his feet, and the floor lights up, showing the ship's past routes. Amagi takes a look at the data and realizes this ship's been causing trouble all over the Empire. But the really interesting part, every time it finishes an attack, it ends up near a specific warp gate on the Empire's edge. This gate leads into a danger zone, basically a no man's land caught between the Empire and some enemy nation. Liam quickly connects the dots and figures that the pirates must be using that gate to reach their secret hideout. Once Amagi breaks down the coordinates, she pinpoints the location of the hidden base. She goes into a long explanation about space travel, weird orbit paths, and how risky it would be to go there. Liam tunes most of it out. All he's thinking is, hidden pirate lair equals treasure stash. He gets all hyped up, imagining a jackpot of loot just waiting for him. Even though it's probably just fantasy, Amagi lets him decide, and Liam instantly announces that they're going on a treasure hunt. Word of this reaches Goaz, the top pirate boss. When he hears that some noble brat has already wiped out part of his crew at the border, he's furious. He drags the defeated ones in front of him, ready to teach them a lesson for embarrassing the pirate name. But before dealing with those losers, he orders his army to bring him Liam's head, sending all his forces out to crush him. Meanwhile, Liam and his massive fleet of ships reach the warp gate that leads to the pirate base. But there's a problem. They can't just go through. Apparently, using that gate isn't free. It comes with a crazy toll fee charged by the Empire. One of the gate operators links up with Liam and explains that since the gate covers a massive distance and Liam's trying to jump with around 7,000 ships, it's going to cost him big time. Liam tries to convince the officer that he'll pay the fee later, but the officer doesn't trust a word of it. Liam asks Amagiji if she can find someone who'll vouch for him, but no luck. No contacts, no backup. He tries explaining again that he wants to take on some dangerous pirates, hoping that will impress the officer. Instead, it makes things worse. The officer refuses even harder, saying Liam might not even make it back alive, let alone pay what he owes. Liam's frustrated. He didn't travel all this way for nothing, so he insists on speaking to the boss, only to find out that this guy is the boss. Furious, Liam ends the call in a huff and decides to try something different. He thinks maybe meeting face-to-face will help. While he's coming up with a new plan, Gawaz, who's clearly on the other side of this mess, shows up at the Paran gate with his flashy spaceship. Unlike Liam, he knows the right people and doesn't need to beg. Even though he's a pirate, doors open for him just because he has the money. He makes a call and gets welcomed warmly. When asked where he's headed, Goaz says he's off to the Domos gate. Now Domos is pretty much a dead zone. Nothing interesting, nothing valuable, so the gate officer is confused, but Goaz shrugs it off. He just pays and keeps it moving. Money talks. Meanwhile, Liam finally gets to the warp gate in person. At first, the officer seems okay with it, but then he brings up the gate fee again. Liam tries to act like he's important, saying he's from a noble family and can pay later, but the officer isn't. Realizing the tough guy act won't work, Liam switches tactics and starts begging. Still no luck. He even throws in a lie about needing to visit his sick mom. The officer isn't buying it, especially since Liam's got a whole fleet with him. What kind of visit to mom needs a fleet? The lie falls apart. The officer tells him to come back with the money if his mom really matters that much, then walks off to handle something else. Turns out, Goaz is getting approved to pass through. Liam, now totally fed up, starts pacing around. He spots the dog he saw earlier and follows it. Inside the control room, the staff notices Goaz's ship in the system and Liam's is still waiting. They realize a fight might break out, but instead of handling it, they all quietly step away. Better to not be involved when things blow up. Liam walks into the now empty control room and sees the gate controls. He notices Goaz's ship heading one way and thinks maybe the officer secretly gave him access and cleared the room to hide it. He figures it's fine and makes a small adjustment to the route. Just then, Amagiji contacts him with good news. They finally got someone to vouch for them. Not a noble, but Nias, a merchant who owes them a favor. Liam's thrilled. Now with this letter of credibility, no one can stop them. He tells Amagiji to open the warp and they jump in. Lucky for them, Goaz and his crew have already left their base, making it the perfect time for a sneak attack. But things aren't going well for Goaz. He should have reached Domos by now, but it's taking too long. He and his crew spot a gate and assume it's their stop. What they don't know is that Liam's little tweak sent them to the wrong place. They end up in a restricted military zone packed with Imperial ships, and it's way too late to turn back. While Goaz is stuck in enemy territory, Liam finally arrives at the pirate island. Amagiki wants to double-check their location, but Liam doesn't need confirmation. He sees the pirate fleet parked and idle. They're totally unprepared. Liam knows this is his shot. He gives the order, and Amagiji sends out their ships. Liam hops into his personal ship Avid and storms the island. With no warning, he drops a series of heavy attacks, rocket strikes, direct hits. It's a total ambush. The pirates don't even know what hit them. Meanwhile, Goaz is probably still trying to figure out where he is. Liam's not done yet. He wants the loot. When Amajiji reports that all pirate ships are burning, he tells her to send out the mobile knights. They swarm toward the island's rocky center. From his ship, Liam watches excitedly. He's here for treasure, especially gold, his favorite. Whether Goaz realizes what's happening or not, the tables have definitely turned. And this is just the beginning of the chaos to come. Liam and his squad of mechanites storm a hidden planet, blasting through its tough outer layers to break in. Deep inside, a nervous scientist scrambles through the shaking corridors, knowing their final defenses just got wiped out. The space patrol ships that guarded the skies, all gone. He hurries to the control center, already realizing it's too late. At the same time, Liam pushes deeper into the planet's core. A group of armored pirates try to block his way, but they don't stand a chance. He takes them down before his own team even shows up. When his captain finally arrives, he reports that the other pirate groups have also been handled. Liam tells them to stay on the move, clear out any resistance, and search for the treasure vault. As he moves forward, Liam catches a glimpse of that same strange glowing dog he saw before. Curious, he follows the trail, which ends up leading him straight to the control center. The scientist and his crew surrender without a fight. Things are going smoother than expected. Liam demands access to the treasure. The scientist asks what kind of treasure he's after. Valuables, or the collection of weird creatures the old pirate captain used to hoard. That's when Liam realizes the glowing dog might have been one of those creatures. The scientist, misunderstanding, thinks Liam is just another twisted collector like the last guy. He offers to turn the pets into loyal beasts for him. Liam is completely lost. The scientist decides to show him instead, leading him into a hidden lab. Inside, cages and tanks line the walls, filled with people who are turned into monsters through brutal experiments. One of Liam's soldiers starts vomiting, unable to handle the sight. The captain shames him for being soft. Liam keeps walking until he sees one particular girl that makes him freeze. The scientist, proud of his work, explains that she was the pirate captain's favorite pet. He brags about her as if she's some kind of trophy, but Liam's not listening anymore. His mind flashes back to the cruel way he was treated in his past life. Something inside him snaps. He pulls out his gun and ends the scientist right then and there. As silence falls over the lab, a voice rises from one of the cages. It's the girl, the one with strange limbs and eyes on her hands. She wants to know who just took down her captor. Liam steps forward, letting her know that the place is now his and the tormentor is gone for good. The girl breaks down in tears, thinking it's finally over. She begs for mercy, not just for herself, but for all the others locked away with her. She believes they're beyond saving. But Liam has other plans. He promises to help them recover and demands their loyalty in return. With that, he walks off, ordering medics to get the girls to a ship for treatment. The girl cries out, certain they're too far gone to be helped. Even the captain, hardened by war, feels sorry for her. Still, orders are orders. He tries to reason with Liam, explaining that it'll take rare healing potions and expert care just to give these girls a shot at a normal life again. The cost, he says, is just too high. Liam shrugs off his captain's concern. He says he's in a rare good mood, so helping a few people isn't the end of the world. Right then, he gets a message from Maggie saying the real treasure room has been found. That puts a smirk on his face. Perfect timing. With that haul, paying for the treatment of those poor girls won't be a problem. Somewhere else on the ship, the girl who begged him to end her life, Christina, keeps quietly sobbing. Her past was once filled with glory. She was a noble warrior, the pride of her kingdom, someone who fought against space raiders and actually made a difference. But everything came crashing down when she faced off against Goaz and his twisted crew. What she thought was a battle turned into a trap. She and her team were captured, and her home planet was wiped from existence, right in front of her eyes. Her family had always believed the United Alliance would protect them, but they were wrong. The defense systems crumbled too fast. Turns out the Alliance had sold them out. Christina couldn't even process it all. Her people, her land, everything gone in a flash. And that was only the beginning of the nightmare. After the planet's destruction, Goze dragged her and her squad to one of his hidden bases. Christina still held on to a bit of hope. She told her friends to stay strong, that rescue would come. But when Goze walked in, it was clear that he had different plans. He didn't want to kill them, he wanted to keep them. He announced that he'd let one of them go, just one, and he forced Christina to choose. Nervously, she picked the girl who seemed the most scared, but it was all a sick setup. That poor girl became the first test subject in Goze's twisted lab. The scientist butchered her like some toy, slicing her open and reshaping her into a creature with limbs that bent the wrong way. Christina screamed, begged, pleaded, but Goze just laughed and said stopping now would kill the girl. In the end, the girl was turned into a monster. Christina lost a part of herself watching that happen. And then Goze turned to her, saying she'd be next, and she wouldn't be so lucky. He admitted that he enjoyed ruining beauty, that he wanted to make her suffer by watching her own transformation. She begged, offered anything, but he didn't care. He told his scientist to start by moving her eyes, literally taking them out and sticking them on her hands, just so she'd see the horror he was turning her into. And that's exactly what happened. Screams filled the lab. One by one, the girls were turned into grotesque creatures, their minds breaking under the weight of the pain. Now back in the present, Liam finally returns to his home planet. Nia shows up, as usual, trying to charm him and squeeze more money out of him. She's heard about his win and starts pushing for more warships, saying it's a perfect time to expand. Liam isn't having it. He tells her to knock it off, especially with the flirting. She keeps trying to tease him, reminding him she's the reason he even got access to the warp gate in the first place. He finally gives in and listens. Liam turns to Imagi and asks how much the treasure's worth after they cover the medical costs. She runs a quick check and tells him they've got enough left to buy 5,000 warships. Liam's jaw drops. That's way more than he expected. Nia doesn't wait. She bolts off to place the order before he can change his mind. Liam runs after Nia, trying to stop her before she goes full crazy and actually places an order for thousands of warships. Meanwhile, Yasu is just wandering around the ship's halls, thinking up some random excuse to ask Liam for more money, again. Just then, he spots Nia casually walking by, video calling someone and bragging about landing a massive deal by totally throwing away her pride. Yasu, as always, assumes Liam is just messing around with Nia like she's some toy, and that thought makes his blood boil. The twisted guide hanging around nearby can't hide his joy. He feeds off this kind of bitterness and hopes Liam sinks into darker emotions. While Liam's still looking for Nia to cancel the order, Yasu intercepts him and drags him off to the training grounds. There, Liam gets blindfolded, and his sword is made way heavier than normal. It's time for another one of Yasu's ridiculous training sessions. This time, a whole bunch of drones fly in, each one loaded with tennis balls and set to fire them at crazy speeds. Liam tries to react, but it's just too much. He keeps getting nailed over and over. Yasu doesn't slow down. He actually cranks things up. Liam hits the ground hard and complains that one sword isn't enough to block attacks from every direction. But Yasu just glares at him, clearly expecting him to figure things out on his own. That sparks an idea. Instead of attacking, Liam decides to use his magic defensively. He forms a barrier with it, and to his surprise, it works. Every ball bounces right off. Yasu watches in shock as Liam suddenly starts grinning, having one of those aha moments. Liam then twists the barrier's magic and sends the balls flying right back. One by one, the drones explode into pieces. After it's over, Liam rips off his blindfold, feeling proud. But Yasu, he's been hit in the crossfire. His face is red and he's sweating bullets. Panic hits him. He knows Liam isn't just some lucky warrior anymore. He's the real deal. And once Liam finds out about all the shady stuff he's been doing behind the scenes, there's no telling what'll happen. Yasu doesn't wait. He casually starts backing away, saying there's nothing more to teach. Liam protests. He doesn't want the training to end, but Yasu insists. He says he's still learning himself and can't keep babysitting forever. If Liam really wants to grow, he'll have to do it without depending on someone else. And with that, Yasu walks off, partly to escape, partly because he knows his time is running out. Yasu faces Liam one last time and declares that his training is complete. Liam has now mastered the flashy sword style Yasu drilled into him. He says it's now Liam's job to take that technique and share it with the galaxy. Liam takes the responsibility without hesitation. But the second he turns his back, Yasu bolts like his life depends on it. As for Liam, he's feeling better than ever. Things are finally looking up. His money problems are shrinking, his lands are thriving, and he's already taken down some major pirate crews. Now, even his tough old teacher admitted how far he's come. He can't help but feel thankful for how much things have changed. Meanwhile, the creepy guide, who's been lurking around hoping for Liam's misery, can't handle it anymore. All that happiness and confidence? Too much for him to take. So, without saying a word, the guide vanishes off to some distant universe, hoping to avoid getting wiped out by all that positive energy. The next day, Liam woke up in a terrible mood. He was irritated and clearly not happy about how things were going. His assistant noticed something was off and wondered what was bothering him. The truth was, Liam had always dreamed of becoming someone feared and in control, kind of like a villain king. Ever since he arrived in this world, he wanted to rule with an iron fist and make people tremble under his rule. But for his assistant, this mindset was hard to understand. Liam's thinking came from deep scars in his past life. He had been used and treated unfairly, and now that he had power, he wanted payback. Not just in money, but in pride and respect. His AI partner, Imaji, thought he was talking about actual debt, like loans and interest. She warned him that if he didn't manage his funds wisely, he could lose everything to piling interest. But Liam didn't care about numbers. For him, the real debt was emotional. He was trying to make up for the shame and suffering from before. Imaji, however, kept her focus on the present, reminding him that managing his lands and people was what truly mattered now. Meanwhile, the assistant let Liam know that counting the pirate loot would take a while. There were too many things to sort and value properly. That just made Liam even more annoyed. He felt like no one was listening to him, but instead of stressing over it, he brushed it off and kept his focus on what he wanted: power, wealth, and influence. To be a true bad guy in charge, he knew he needed all three. Liam had been improving himself too. He had trained in a new speed-based combat move from someone named Tosi. Even though he still had a long way to go as a swordsman, he was becoming a skilled mentor. Later on, Imaji let him know that a merchant from a well-known company had come to visit. Liam agreed to see him. The merchant introduced himself as Thomas, and he had come to celebrate Liam's recent victory over the space pirates. But Liam wasn't interested in compliments. He wanted to know if Thomas brought anything useful. Turns out, Thomas had brought a good amount of gold as a gift. Liam was thrilled. He joked about being a proper villain now, though he quickly clarified he didn't really mean it. After accepting the gold, he asked what else Thomas wanted. Thomas admitted he needed help transporting cargo through a risky area of space. Pirates were everywhere, and they needed protection from someone with real firepower. Liam didn't answer right away. He looked at Imaji, who was already preparing 100 ships, thinking this would be a great training opportunity for the fleet. It would toughen them up and give them hands-on battle experience. So Liam agreed to help, but only if Thomas promised to bring gold again next time. With the deal made, Thomas headed back to his own city. On the way, he looked around and was amazed at how much progress Liam's place had made in just 1 year. Even though Liam was still young, it was clear he had already left a serious mark. Thomas couldn't help but be impressed. Thomas couldn't help but notice something odd about Liam. The way his eyes lit up the moment he saw the gold was intense. It was almost like he was looking at a dream come true, not just some shiny metal. Back at Liam's place, he was feeling great. That gold wasn't just wealth to him, it was a sign, a symbol that he was finally being seen as someone powerful enough to be paid off. His assistant was even a little proud, thinking Liam had made it big. Liam quickly handed the gold to Imaji to deal with it, asking her to sort it out. It wasn't the regular kind of money. It was a specific type, not something most people carried around. He even had this wild idea of building a bathtub out of it. His assistant assumed it was for health reasons, like maybe gold had some magical benefit. But that wasn't it at all. Liam took a seat, clearly thrilled. For him, this moment marked the start of a new chapter, the rise of his darker self. The only thing missing now? A bunch of women. Yep, Liam had plans to form his own harem. So he started gathering women from around his lands and had a special room set aside for his personal fantasies. He asked the robots to remodel it into something extravagant. He had this wild dream of creating a space where he could live like a king in a festival that never ended. Enough food and drinks to overflow, music, lights, and beauty all around. He even wanted a tub filled with alcohol, not water. That's how far gone he was in his imagination. Imaji, always the voice of reason, popped in, not to shut him down, but to point out a technical issue. That much alcohol in one place? Big fire risk. Liam tried to find a less flammable version. Then came the issue of bathing in alcohol. Imaji offered to filter it out with a purifier, but that would just turn it into water, totally missing the point. Liam got grossed out thinking about bathing in booze and then drinking it, so that plan quickly hit a wall. Then came another weird part. Liam wanted meat hanging in the room too. He figured it added to the whole feast vibe, but again, logic got in the way. His assistant stepped in, asking if he planned on hanging fresh meat or packaged stuff, because raw meat would turn the place into a butcher's shop, and processed meat would make it feel like a snack store. Either way, the vibe was off. Everyone started throwing in their opinions. Bacteria, flavor loss, health risks. It was like a full-on intervention. Liam was starting to lose hope. He just wanted his over-the-top dream room. But nobody seemed to get what he really meant. He snapped out of it and made it clear. He wasn't giving up on the harem part. That was non-negotiable. Women would serve him, laugh with him, and he'd enjoy every bit of it. Imaji surprisingly supported the idea, which lifted Liam's mood again. That one piece of his fantasy was finally going somewhere. His assistant admired him for reaching this level of leadership. Even though he thought Liam might be jumping the gun, especially at his age, he couldn't deny the kid had ambition. Truth was, Liam had been manipulated in the past, charmed into wasting money on things like warships just because of a pretty face. But in his mind, a real ruler deserved someone loyal by his side, and maybe, eventually, a successor too. Liam thought his assistant was rushing things too much, especially about the whole "you need an heir" conversation. But from the deputy's point of view, it made sense. If something ever happened to Liam, that would be the end of his bloodline. So, naturally, the guy got a little too excited. Liam tried to keep things calm and mentioned to Imaji that there weren't really any issues stopping him from starting his harem plan. With the green light, the deputy got straight to work, promising to handpick the best women in the city for him. He even asked Liam what the big plan was after the harem was complete. Liam began thinking to himself, 10 women sounded like enough, but then he thought, if I really want to make the world suffer the way I once did, maybe I should go for 100. It was a ridiculous number, but he liked the idea. The deputy looked shocked, but Liam wasn't backing down. Imaji, as usual, ran some checks and put together a list, but surprisingly there were no real volunteers. Her list came up empty. Still, Liam wasn't too bothered by that. For him, quality mattered more than quantity. The deputy wasn't having it. He was annoyed that Liam hadn't even bothered to invite any potential candidates. Liam mentioned he had Imaji, but she couldn't have children. Honestly, she was perfect in every other way, smart, loyal, and had all the traits Liam admired, but not someone who could carry on his legacy. The deputy started stressing about the future again, wishing Liam had at least kept one of his past interests around. Liam, though, was picky. He only wanted the best, and wasn't going to settle just to check off some box. Getting frustrated, the deputy insisted that Liam start meeting the women who were interested in joining his harem. Imaji gave Liam a device to help narrow the options. He could make his picks, and she'd handle the rest. But Liam wasn't thrilled. He didn't want women who came running just because he was powerful. He wanted the challenge. Someone who didn't want to be with him. Maybe it was petty, maybe a little twisted, But that's how his mind worked. After all, in his past life, he'd been betrayed. This time, he wanted to be the one pulling the strings. He asked the deputy if he'd ever wanted a harem himself, but the truth was, Liam would only build one if it made him happy, not to please others or to follow tradition. Eventually, Liam stepped outside his palace after being holed up for a while. He wandered through the city, hoping to meet some interesting girls. He walked up to one and invited her to share a fancy drink. She agreed, but as she turned around, a weird balloon was stuck to her nose. Liam was stunned. Then he looked around and realized almost every girl had the same thing. Confused, he asked what it was. She casually explained it was a nose balloon, part of the latest trend. So Liam walked back to his palace, carrying one of those silly balloons too. Imaji already knew what it was and explained it was the current style. The deputy tried to downplay it, saying it was just a harmless accessory that girls found cute. But Liam didn't see the charm. He thought it looked ridiculous. Imaji, however, seemed into it and asked if she could wear it for him. That set Liam off. He didn't want her wearing something like that. He smashed the balloon in frustration and told them to ban the trend altogether. In his mind, this kind of stuff killed real excitement. Girls were out there looking silly, and everyone just went along with it like it was fashion. Liam couldn't understand how things had gotten to this point. He had expected to go out and see gorgeous women during his walk, but instead he ran into floating nose ornaments and skimpy outfits that made him uncomfortable. The beachwear was so tight he couldn't even make proper conversation. He walked back fuming, completely thrown off by how strange everything felt. Then the deputy casually brought up whether Liam was still upset about the alcohol and meat room fiasco. Like that was still the problem. But Liam had already moved past that. Now, he was just wondering if there was anyone left in the city who didn't have a balloon stuck to their face. Liam wasn't mad for the reasons everyone thought. What really bugged him was how ridiculous fashion had gotten in town. People were walking around in clothes that made no sense. Loud colors, weird shapes, and just trying too hard. He missed the days when people dressed with some class. But everyone around him, especially Imaji, seemed to think this was progress. Liam didn't see it that way. He felt like the whole city had lost its taste. He figured maybe he could turn things around. At first, he thought about bringing in some well-known faces and fashion experts to set a new standard. But then he found out the cost of hiring just one big name. It was almost as much as running the entire city for a year. That was enough to kill the idea right away. So he switched gears. Instead of spending a fortune, he decided to style the newcomers himself. When new women arrived at the palace, he'd help them pick outfits he actually liked. That way, at least inside the palace, people looked decent. Imaji mentioned that most of the palace staff were already easy on the eyes. Then she suggested bringing someone over to lift his mood, but Liam wasn't feeling it. His head was somewhere else. Curious about the rules, he asked if there was anything stopping him from getting involved with the palace workers. Imaji made it clear. There were no restrictions. They were there because they wanted to be. Liam was surprised. Without her around, he'd still be second-guessing everything. She always seemed to know how things worked. Just then, the deputy jumped in again, talking about how Liam needed to think about the future, passing on the family name and all that. But Liam wasn't into the idea of chasing women who were already waiting in line for him. That felt boring. He wanted things to be more unpredictable, more exciting. Imaji made a playful comment that rubbed Liam the wrong way, and he got annoyed. He didn't mean anything like that. He just wanted to enjoy life in a way that felt powerful, like the bold, selfish characters from stories who always did what they wanted. But even trying to act like that didn't come naturally to him. He felt stuck between who he was and who he thought he should be. Meanwhile, somewhere else, Tia had just woken up. She looked down and saw her hands were perfectly fine. No pain, no scars. She was stunned. After everything she'd been through, it felt unreal. A doctor explained that she'd been healed completely. She tried to sit up, but they told her to take it slow. Tears rolled down her face, not from pain, but from relief. She couldn't believe she got another shot at life. The doctor said a rare medicine was used on her, something people usually only dreamed about. Tia was in shock. She had lost her home, her people, and had no money left. She couldn't imagine how she'd been able to afford something like that. Turns out, she didn't pay for it. Liam had set up this entire place to help people like her, bringing in top doctors and covering the costs for everyone. Tia was overwhelmed. More than anything, she just wanted to stand on her own 2 feet again. Then the doctor handed her a message from Liam. He wanted her to remember this and repay the kindness in her own way someday. It reminded her of when they first met. After the doctor left, Tia quietly cried to herself, making a silent promise that she wouldn't forget what he did for her. Back at the palace, Liam was flipping through options like someone checking out profiles on a dating site, looking for girls who fit his taste.